Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the situation report or the SITREP or the summary for the day of 1351 for the 5th of November for the Ukraine war or the special military operation in Ukraine. So we're going to start off as usual from the south. Over in the Kherson front, so let me put an arrow. There is still fighting being reported towards the Antonovsky Bridge. According to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry about the Russians reported shelling at Antonivka, Sadove, and Mikhailsky. So it looks like everything is very concentrated in this sector, but generally I don't think there's really much to talk about. The fighting is most probably around this place is Dachi, and yeah, that's about it. Moving on further to the Zaporizhia front. Over at there's nothing over in the Kyiv sector. The actions is in Kamyanske. At the Kamyanske sector, we have a return of the fighting. The offensive at Kamyanske is back. This time around, fighting is being reported at Primorske, at Plavny, as well as Stepove. In the latest information, there's some frontline changes according to the Ukrainian mapping. Just north of Plavny, in this tri-border region between the three towns, Stepnohurst, Primorske, and Plavny. So it's around the junction, but it's not not very significant. It just shows that the Russians are back, disturbing the Ukrainians over at Kamyanske sector. Otherwise, that's all. Over in the Huyaipole sector, this is Huyaipole. This is at the easternmost end of the Zaporizhia front. We have fighting mainly over on this part. We have fighting reported at Okiniche, Novomykolaiivka. The latest mapping from the Ukrainians, this is not in the frontline changes report, this is the latest one. The Russian forces have advanced at Uspenivka. Fighting is reported at Privilne. They mentioned Novokhrikhovka, and Zlahoda is also mentioned, and shelling reported at Rivnopilia. So the action pretty much is strategically the same. The Russians are trying to capture the whole line of settlements around here. They need to capture Uspenivka because this is the biggest town on the western bank of the river over here. And if they capture Uspenivka, then I think the whole chain will have to collapse. So by the look of it, Uspenivka is clear, near capture. And also weird thing about Zlahoda is that there is a new name for it. So previously the Russians call it Pervomaisky. On the Google map, it's called Zlahoda. And today the Ukrainian Defense Ministry call it Peshotrivnive. Like, this one small little town got 3 names. Holy shit. So very, very weird. Moving to the rest of the Komar front. So Komar is over here. At the Komar front, our fighting is reported at Privilia, Yehorevka, Verbove, Stepove, Sosnivka, Vorodne, Shifneve, Oleksandrograd, Pipdotne, Yalta, Zeleny High, Ivanivka, Filia. So a lot of arrows. These are mostly Ukrainian reports. Strategically, it's more or less the same. This itself is a front line with the battle, concentrating around the idea of this forest here. In this western part is the Russian push, flanking the north of the Huyaipole sector. Consolidation operations in the rear at Yalta and Pidotne. Fighting at Ivanivka, Zeleny High, and Filia. This is largely the frontier, where the border is a separate front line. Nothing particularly came out to be very, very weird or outstanding. It's pretty routine in my opinion. So if you have watched the situation report every day, you probably will find this very, very familiar. Moving further up to the Pokrovsk front. At the Pokrovsk front, the fighting is reported over in Buravka, Novosahievka, Udashne, Kotline. In the south of Pokrov at Ro, and the other place, what is it called? Khanativka. And fighting is reported in Pokrov. The Ukrainians counterattack over in the north and the northeast. They're still trying to do the same thing. Fighting is reported at Vinogorod from 3 different directions, from the north, from the east and the southeast. And fighting is being reported at Marolubivka, according to the Ukrainians, and Severny Liman. Geolocation of Ukrainians getting struck by, I think, FPV drone. Yes, there's an FPV drone strike far away in the northwest. Not super important. Probably this is the Ukrainian forces that is trying to reinforce to Khrishine, going down to Pokrov. Situation and also fighting is reported Lysivka. So the battle for Pokrov continues. The battle for Vinogorod continues. Situation in Pokrov is worse as the Russians have a much firmer control. There's massive dispute between the Russian Defense Ministry's version of event versus the Ukrainian version of the event. So the Ukrainian version of the event is that the Russians sent a lot of infiltrators into the city, they're everywhere, but Ukrainians actually generally have control. There is no encirclement. And then, however, from the Russian perspective, the Ukrainian forces are encircled and then they are getting hammered. The Ukrainians are trying to break the encirclement, but so far to no avail. In my opinion, the Russian perspective is most likely to be more accurate, because we have all seen the helicopter operation where the Ukrainians desperately sent in special forces to try to help to do a opening to break the encirclement or alleged operational encirclement. However, most of these special forces assault troops are hunted down by FPV drones. And but the thing is that the fact that they would send in helicopter to desperately send in reinforcement to try to do a human wave, because the video looked like a human wave. You have like more than 10 soldiers rushing across the field. Yeah, accusations getting thrown around during the Kursk front. Times now it's coming back to bite. But it to say that there is no encirclement, then I don't think the Ukrainians would have been so desperate. So yeah, Vinogorod situation is also just as bad. Not as bad as Pokrov, but it's super bad as well. And it runs the risk of another bigger encirclement. So that's all happening. There is a geolocation of a Russian airstrike off Suhatske, so over in the north. These are static lines over at Udashne and Kotline. And also Novosahievka and Boravka is going to be a static line. I think around Lysivka feels like they deliberately left it to have this salient south of Vinogorod by the look of it. Severny Liman is an attempt in the northern action. No mention of Rodinske. So yeah, we shall see. Maybe the Ukrainians have overrun the position in their counterattack. Who knows? That's also always a possibility. So we're gonna. So that's all from the situation in the Pokrovsk front in the macro sense. So we're gonna pull up to the northern flank of the Pokrov front, which is the Pokrov breakout zone. So in this sector here, it got a lot more quieter, mainly because I think the Ukrainian counteroffensive has been pretty successful. Ukrainians are attacking Shakove, as well as fighting reported Volodymyrivka. Ukrainian forces geolocated, causing a frontline change, corroborating as part of the Ukrainian claims. Fighting is reported at Mayat and Nikhanorivka. Dnipropetrovsk is getting shelled by the Russians, and there is also shelling reported at Toretske, and a geolocation of Ukrainian artillery was hit in Palivka. But generally, I think strategically, not much big strategic change anymore. Ukrainians are attacking, the chain of settlement to try to break it, destroy whatever remnants of Russian forces according to their perspective, whereas the Russians are holding the line around Nikhanorivka region. And it could also marks more or less coming to the end of the gray zone. We have this massive gray zone in the north. It looks like this is going to end pretty soon. Fighting is reported at Rutinya. That's part of the Konstantinivka front. But I think the northern flank here is getting very quiet, very quiet, as the Ukrainians counteroffensive seems to be working out. Moving to the Konstantinivka front. At the Konstantinivka front, we have fighting reported at Rusinya, as mentioned. Fighting is also mentioned at Plishevka, Shebenivka, Alexandro Shutini. Russian forces make more advance in Konstantinivka. Fighting reported at Tuposhki and Chasivya. So this frontline change clearly shows the Russian push into Konstantinivka continues. And there is two geolocations. One of them was a tank that was hit by at least 5 to 7 drones, one by one, as the drone do not have a cope cage, and then it got like just hit one after another until it got burnt in the middle of Konstantinivka. And there's another geolocation. This is a Russian airstrike that was noted. Strategically, this is happening. The push towards the south, creating the southern wall, continues. Although the Ukrainians seem to be doing pretty well, keeping the Russians away from closing the entire gap. Ukrainians still have a salient into Uspenivka, which the Russians are trying to fight or leave it open. It's hard to say. Rusinya is a static line. The fighting towards Berestov no longer mentioned. This is no longer mentioned. So yeah, so that's the current situation. I think the Chasivya here is don't expect too much. This is pretty low intensity fighting over in that sector. So that's all. So this is the Konstantinivka front update, and we move further up north. From this situation, there is fighting reported at Orikovo Vasilivka in the Bakhmut front. Not super important. I don't think nothing. I think nothing is going to happen over there. Over into the Liman-Siversk front. At the Liman-Siversk front, the Vasilkivka, Bodarne, Podzeno, is no longer mentioned. In the past 24 hours, fighting is still reported at Yampil, Dronivka, Serbianka, Siversk, Zvanivka, Perezny. So strategically, same thing. Russians are trying to take Yampil. They're trying to control Dronivka. From Yampil, they're going to hit south of Liman. From Dronivka, they can potentially hit into the rear of Siversk, or actually hit over to Ozerne or Zakitne region. Serbianka, Siversk is probably the war on Siversk, with the Russians doing the southern flanking operation. The left or the west flank, the southwest offensive, this is still ongoing. Whereas the one from Vimka has already accomplished a mission. So that is the current situation in Siversk front. So this is, by the way, this is Kupyansk. It looks pretty near, pretty far. Let's see how that goes. It will be, imagine the day that the fighting reached Slovyansk. That would be so insane. Don't you think? If you guys have been following together with me, the war, like it would just be unbelievable. Moving into the Oskil front. Just realized I can turn this off. Yeah. So fighting is reported at Kharkivka, Kharkivka, Koroviyar, Shandri Holove, Novoselivka, Darilove, Torbisheve, Kolozyazi, Marne, and Zarishny. So the full set of arrows seems to have returned. Kharkivka, static line. Kharkivka and Korovia are all operations to go towards Yakivka and then go to Oskil. So that is the same thing. Shandri Holove, and Darilove, Idea, Torbisheve, and Novoselivka generally, and go for Yarova and then go for Sviatohursk. This is the same. The rest of these are all going for Stavki, and so strategically the same. Nothing. There's no big transformation of the strategy by the Russians so far. Moving to the Borova front. Borova front, fighting is reported at Bohuslavka, Novokryakivka, and Novoplatonivka. So there's this big push to go for Platonivka, kill off the salient. I think this is currently happening. Fighting is reported at Novohorivka. I don't think this I think this is just a static line. Don't expect too much from that sector. And that's all from the Borova front. And as I record, I'm starting to feel sleepy. So, happy birthday to you if your birthday today. And we move on to the Kupyansk front. At the Kupyansk front, nothing in the south. Findings reported still in Kupyansk. The battle for Kupyansk continue. Petropavlivka is mentioned, Pischane is mentioned, and Osinovo is mentioned. Russians are pushing Osinovo, but the Ukrainians are counter-attacking also from Osinovo, as well as Blahodativka, as well as Kishenivka. I think the main action right here is that the Ukrainians are probably trying to cut the thinnest part. From the front line to the river, they're trying to cut this off so that they can, leave the siege by, heading south, blocking the Russians, in the north, so that they can wipe out the Russians, in encirclement in Kupyansk. So I think that's what they're trying to do, and they're putting pressure on the Russians, building the wall. Instead of the Russians building the wall, the Ukrainians are building the wall and try to, squeeze the Russians out. The Russians themselves are clearing Petropavlivka and Pischane. So situation is very interesting. The Ukrainians are trying to take the initiative. I think the main push in this north, this is the key point, the key thing that the Ukrainians are trying to do to leave the siege on Kupyansk. So let's see whether Ukrainians is going to be successful about this, and so we will continue to keep track of this. Moving to the Vorishna front, we have actions mainly over in the corner. We're fighting reported Bolihivka, Troivka, and Kamyanske. This one, it was from yesterday. So frontline changes report with the Russians taking grounds around this corner as they continue their operation to take out the Vorichanske and as well as the entire corner. The aim is to straighten the front line from Odradny all the way to Krasny Pashi. So that's all from the Vorishna front. You move on to the Kharkiv front, and the action is mainly still in the Voschansk sector. In the Voschansk sector, major developments, latest, geolocation of Russian forces showing the Russians have indeed continued to advance in the western part of Voschansk. There is geolocation of Russian airstrike, just east of the position. You can see how close the Russian air support is. And the Ukrainians continue to mention about Russian attacks in Serenikove region. So definitely the Russians are making two-pronged attacks, and they're probably going to try to break out and whatnot. So let's see how this goes. I think the intensity of the fighting here is high, but it's not as high as in Pokrovsk or in Kupyansk. But definitely, if the Ukrainians do not do something about this might start to become a disaster. And let's see how this goes. I just saw my friend came out and he went to play Helldiver. I really want to play it, but I have not even buy the game. So I heard so much good things about it. So anyway, down to the last front line, the Sumy front. At the Sumy front, it is a sleepy front because Sumy, slumber, Sumber. This is a sleepy front. Findings reported in Pelevka, Kindrativka, Oleksievka, and Marine. And these are static lines. Yeah, static lines. So don't expect too much from this sector. All these are just skirmishes. I have condemned this place as just a buffer skirmish place. So that's it. So this is the summary for the day of 1351 for the 5th of 11 month of the year of 2025. Thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.